Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hair the Dogcast. This is your host, Brad, Papa Be Rad, Loaf of White Brad, and I put my gamer tag on my attendee badge, so I'm Night Rune. I thought it was cool in 8th grade.
Right there with you.
Dude, same. I know what you're saying.
Two very special guests that I'm very honored to have. Two legends, absolute titans in the speedrunning community.
Damn.
They run games such as Kingdom Hearts, Crash Bandicoot, Mega Man, Mario, Final Fantasies, and a million more. They co-host Speedrunning Underground, creators behind Possibly Bad Entertainment, and of course, they are the two prettiest co-hosts at Games Done Quick. We have Spike Vegeta and JHobz. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This is awesome. Excited
Super
to be
excited.
here.
Happy Games Done Quick.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah,
Awesome.
coming here from Summer Games Done Quick 2019.
Also, it's cool to hear things like that listed out. It's like, damn, we've done some shit.
Yeah, I was like, shit, I forgot.
I could
I
have.
thought we were just coming in for the free beer. I thought it was when we were here.
That's how you get people to come on your podcast.
Yeah,
you bring
right.
7 cases of beer.
I mean,
know I
yeah,
earned
pretty
this.
much.
First off, JHobz, I wanted to talk to you about your Crash Bandicoot run.
Sure.
Yep. A little snafu with the gate clip early on.
Yeah, a little bit. It basically, like, it's the hardest part of the run, probably. Like, there's a level that's the hardest level, but, like, that part, you got to do some straight up blind movement, right? Like you gotta move around without being able to see whatever you're doing. And even though Zallard made me look like a chump,
Right.
he killed it in Punch Out right
He
after.
played an entire video game without vision.
But it's really hard, and it like the funny thing is it's one of those things that goes right in practice like 9 times out of 10, and then you go up and do it in front of 100,000 people or whatever, and suddenly it's a little bit harder. You mess it up a little bit.
And that was a newer technique that you had just decided to do a couple days earlier, something like that?
New version of it you learned.
Yeah. So like there was a way of doing it that did involve going blind, but there was a newer way found that saved like just 2 or 3 seconds total over the whole run. That was like it actually got rid of some of the sound effects too. So when you're doing blind movement, when you can't see what you're doing, the only other thing you have is audio, right? So, and maybe like controller rumble. And my controller rumble didn't happen, and we're doing a method that had basically no audio. So it was just one of those things that you just kind of got to get a feel for it. And I probably needed a little bit more time to practice it before implementing it.
It's amazing that you went in there with only like 2 days.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be okay, but I don't know.
The rest
up a little bit.
I think there's this like sense when we get up on stage that like it is a competition, but we also just want to put on a good show for the audience. So it's like, if I lose the race, that's not going to affect me in any way. I want to try to showcase to people what I've learned, what we can do with this game, how insane it can possibly be, even if it's only slightly faster. It's really for the entertainment value.
It's not about the PBs when you're here at Games Done Quick. It's about the show.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's definitely
Unless you're Zallard and you PB by 6 minutes.
For some
We're
people,
gonna get to Zallard here in a second for sure.
Hell yeah.
Is there a lot of pressure doing a race live? Is it different than just playing at home doing your PBs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've done it too, right?
Well, I'll say, right?
Live races.
With Donkey Kong.
Our roles were swapped. Last time he was on the couch commentating, and I was part of Tropical Freeze. And no matter what you do, even because people say this, I think in any medium, like or any competitive medium, I feel no pressure. I feel no pressure. No matter what, you're a little more jacked up than you are sitting at home, just like doing attempts endlessly, and then realizing, man. Forget the 100,000 people at home, because you can kind of forget about that, honestly. There's a couple hundred people sitting right behind me wanting me to do good, and I'm messing up for them.
Well, and even more than that, too, like you're normally when you're at home, you're just kind of, you're in your own setup. You got your comfy chair, you know exactly what you're doing, and you are in control of, like, everything you're doing, right? Like, if you want to not talk for a second because you're going to just think for a moment about what you're about to do, you can do that, right? Like if you want to sing along to the music in the game, or you want to whatever, you can do that. So when you got a big race with a lot of other people and you have other commentators and stuff, like you want them to talk about your game, right? Like I wanted Spike and Sword to feel like they should talk whenever we're not talking, and so like that's just a whole extra dynamic of, even if you manage to forget about all the people watching online and in person behind you, there's just that factor of like, well, there's other things still going on while I'm focusing on the screen.
Right.
And there's 2 screens to the left of me that I'm also looking at and seeing where they are.
A lot of stimulus everywhere. Just see someone walk by.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to your panel you did. I'm not sure if it was last year, a couple years ago, where you talked about hosting and the different roles hosts can
Like
have.
commentary stuff?
Commentaries,
Yeah.
yes. And you two are always very great at filling in the blanks and educating people on the runs. it's still surprising to me how many people are unfamiliar with speedrunning in general. I told a lot of my friends that follow the podcast really into gaming that I'm going to a speedrunning thing, and a lot of them were just unfamiliar. Where have you been, you silly people? Spike, you've been coming since 2011 to these Games Done Quicks. Could you give our listeners who might not be familiar with Games Done Quick just a little synopsis of what's going on here?
Yeah, effectively, it's just it's a way of gaming that we find interest in. It adds a lot of replay value. We just try to perform speedruns, which is just going from the beginning of a game to the end of the game as fast as we can. You can do little things like you can do just an individual level in the video game otherwise. But yeah, we're just trying to get from the beginning to the end as fast as we can. Around 2010, a guy named by Maiku Yama decided to raid his mother's basement with 20-something other nerds.
Well, and they
put
were
on
originally
classic games. They were originally going to be
even
MagFest.
they were going to be at like a convention center or hotel or whatever, and something fell through. And so it was lucky that like Mike was, hey, my mom's cool.
Sure,
Use our
bring
basement.
20 grown people downstairs and you could put it on. And I never remember because that was one of the few events I didn't go to, but it was a couple days. They raised like $10,000, which at the time was like,
That's
all right.
Amazing.
If you go into your mom's basement and you raise $10,000, you did something right.
Right.
And sure enough, we're here not even quite 10 years later, and they're raising like millions of dollars. But yeah, we put on a charity marathon event. A couple of the organizations we have support over the years, Prevent Cancer Foundation and Doctors Without Borders, which we're supporting right now for SGDQ. And we just do speedruns all week long.
Yeah.
It's about 150 some odd hours of speed runs. And it used to be, they would ask people back at CGDQ, who can do a run? Anybody who can make it. There were a couple of legendary runners from those days, Frezzy Man, Andrew G, a couple of people. They would come and do like 10 different video games and, just put it on. Now it's like, if you're not the world record holder or one of the very best, then you cannot perform here. It's so competitive.
And not because they are like, oh, well, you suck, right? It's just because like that's the level of competition for getting in. Like the less than 10% of submissions in terms of hours, like less than 10% of submitted hours actually get into these things now, which is just like mind blowing how far it is and everything.
It's so amazing that the staff goes through all of those submissions too, and they have to watch them all to choose.
Yeah, luckily, like once you've like seen a lot of games, a lot of games don't change a ton year to year, right? So like that can help you out in terms of mitigating that a little bit, but sometimes you got to still rewatch everything.
It seems like also these days, I keep talking about indie games are cranking out more, because I'm a believer that indie devs know about GDQs now. You talk about how slowly but surely more and more people know what this is, this speedrunning. Games Done Quick, some of the biggest events that happen on Twitch all year long. So indie devs are like, I want to make something that might get shown at a GDQ randomly in their indie block, and like maybe more people will want to look into playing my game, my little ninja game or my little platformer or whatever it is. So yeah, with all of those coming out every year, that's that many more submissions that like, I don't know what this game is that they're gonna have to go through. They know Mario 64 and Mega Man, but they don't know the 20 new indie games they have to go watch the whole thing for.
Which is really challenging for you two as hosts, announcers, commentators, whatever you want to call it. How do you go about being so up to date on so many different games? Because I remember Spyro came out not too long ago, and you have to crash through these 3 games real quick and then be ready to commentate.
I'm about to say, we were roommates there for a little while. I remember coming in, and he's sitting there like 3 a.m. just shoveling back some cereal and doing research on Spyro, trying to play through it as fast as you could, so you could commentate it.
Yeah, because like Spike is the master of this man. It's nuts. He'll learn a game in like 2009 2010 or some shit, and he will remember this game, like this speed game, to a T forever. Like it's nuts. Spike's knowledge of that is insane. For me, it was like the Spyro thing especially. I had to I was commentating a Spyro remake, like when the Spyro remake trilogy came out and everything, and I was like, well, I've played Spyro like 20 years ago, like I don't really remember it. So I got like a code, and it very much felt kind of like I was a games journalist for a second, where it was like, I need to see as much of the content in this game as I possibly can, because I don't know what these guys are going to do yet. So I did that, and then I did a lot of research of watching like the original runs. So all in all, I probably put in like a solid like 24 to 40 hours of
Right.
research. It's hard to determine because like some of it is playing the game, so do you call that research or not? But like
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean like it was
is.
a solid like just like 3 days of just playing this game offline and taking notes and watching runs and stuff. And it's a lot of like notes help me a lot to get it like ingrained in my memory. And there's a lot of things when you start to do speed runs, you can pick up on what's going to influence the routing, because routing in speedruns is like a really big thing for new games. It's a matter of like, okay, so what do I need to do to get out of World 1? Do I need to get like 5 crystals in Crash, or do I need to actually beat the first boss? Which one is it actually?
Right.
Do I need to, go get this number of talismans, this number of orbs or whatever? So I was writing down requirements that the game was making me do like constantly, because I figured it's a new game. They probably won't have found a ton of skips yet. They'll have to route on the fly to get all these requirements. And it was a lot of work, but that was still like a blast. It was super fun.
Some people have real jobs.
Yeah, sure. We gotta sit here and play video games all day, darn. But
I have to turn friends away from hanging out. I have to go home and play Chrono Trigger because we're going to do a podcast.
yes.
I'm sorry. So you've been co-hosting here for a while, Spike. JHobz, you've been doing it, I want to say 3 years, 4 years maybe?
Yeah, like we're interviewers. Because
okay, I'm not sure the right vernacular there.
Well, I mean, all of those are different things. We have been hosts, we have been commentators, and we have been interviewers.
Right.
All 3 of the different ones, but yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like what we do on a lot of the public-facing stuff of GDQ, it's interviews lately. Spike's been doing it longer. I've been doing it since...
Okay, mine was 2015. You were probably
I was like
2017 we brought you in?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe
yeah,
it's 20,
HGDQ 2017, SGDQ 2017, something like that. It's been a couple years now.
What kind of preparation goes into an event? So you get the game's on a quick schedule. You're offered interviews, or you're told we want you to do these things. How does that go forward?
Say he's actually the lead of the interview team, so this is yours.
Yeah, so I actually I head up the interview team now. It used to be Darkman78 did it for a while, and then he does a lot of other things too. So I started doing the lead interview stuff, and it's surprisingly like a lot of work before the event. Like, you'd think it's a lot during the event, but during the event we actually have 6 interviewers or whatever, and we try to shoot for around like 60 interviews over the course of the week. And so that means that every person really needs to show up like 10 times for 20 minutes or something, which is still like, or half an hour, I'd say, which is still like actually quite a bit to do when you're dealing with a 24-hour marathon. So those could show up at like any time. But beforehand, we do a lot of research. Like we have meetings every week for like pretty much as soon as the schedule releases. We meet every single week, and we're either figuring out who we want to interview, looking at the schedule, being like, do we know anything about this guy? Let's research this person. We know that this girl's going to give a really good interview, right? Like we try to figure out who's going to give us the best interviews, and also where we can fit them, because you can't actually put them everywhere when part of the goal of the interview is to like actually cover some of the setup times, right? So that it helps just keep the marathon like moving, like keep things interesting, keep things happening on screen. So it's a lot of work, and then probably I'd say like half of our work before the marathon is probably interviews, and the other half is the pre-show.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about that as well.
Sure.
So there was some blowback in the past years about the scripted events and it taking away from some of the magic. And I want to say that the pre-show this year is gold.
I thought it was our best.
It was a
pre-show.
masterpiece.
I loved it. I thought it was good.
The comedic timing, everything was spot on. Are you involved in the writing process?
Oh, we are.
We are kind of the writers.
Not just us two, but everybody who you see on there.
It's all just a big, constantly spitballing ideas back and forth, getting to a point where we say, this just isn't working. We had an idea for actually one joke that it wasn't landing.
Yeah.
I have a theater background, and sometimes you just have to accept that part is just not working.
Right.
You just got to scrap it and try something completely different. And there's a little bit of silence for a while, but then we realized something else that you could tell everyone at the meeting was excited about. This is something, and for anybody in the audience to enjoy what you're doing, you have to enjoy it first.
So the weird thing is too that like we're talking about people that are all in different states. right? Like, so you can't just like get together in a room and like act things out and see what's going to work and what isn't. We have to actually do everything over Discord or like some other voice program, right? We got to do it all online. And with that introduces a little bit of like latency via the internet. And when you're talking about comedic timing, having something introduce latency into comedic timing does not work very well. So it that ends up being a problem, and that had something to do with like some of the jokes that we cut is like, if we can't get it working online, we don't know that we're not confident we're going to have the amount of time in person before we have to go live to make it work in person. So it's the writing process is all of the interviewers or at least everybody that's on the pre-show, and myself, whether I'm on it or not, and then we go from that, like writing down a script that we really like. It starts generally with like a big brainstorming process of just like, we're going to list a ton of things that seem interesting about the schedule this year, because we always like to base it first and foremost off of what are we seeing this year?
What are we actually talking about?
Yeah, like what is actually here? What are the interesting stories we can make out of this schedule? Has this person been at 8 GDQs before? Is this person, it's their first GDQ? That kind of thing. Then we narrow it down. We try to like come up with a rough outline and then turn that somewhat into a script. And then after the script is like done, then we got to go meet with all the interview producers, because there are so many people that work behind the scenes, like behind the cameras and everything. And then that is where like half of the visual parts of the gag actually show up sometimes. Because I'll go talk. We've got a great team of interview producers, and we'll talk with them and be like, okay, so in my head, I walk, from the back behind the backdrop here to go interrupt them and really micromanage them as a producer or whatever, or as a director. And then they're like, but I think it'll work better if you walk across the set all the way, walk across these cameras, and if you're shouting the whole time. And I mean, we had a freaking modded Skyrim video. Like, God. We had to mod Skyrim to make that video. And that was one of our interview producers. He just said like, oh yeah, no problem, I'll like mod Skyrim for you so that we can make that thing happen. And it's a lot of work from a ton of people, especially several that you don't see on screen. It's a lot of moving parts nowadays.
And it absolutely delivered. Little Tater Tot loved it.
Yeah, that was the one that he's talking about, where like we had a different joke, we kind of got rid of it, and then we fell in love with Tater Tot. With
Lord Tay-Tay, y'all.
Yeah.
So there are some games that seem to really lend themselves to speedrunning, games with timers such as Punch-Out, race games, things like that.
Sure.
Are there any game types that we don't see a lot of at GDQ that you think could be great speedruns?
Man, I mean, there's always like some interest. I think at the end of the day, the games that people love, they have nostalgia for, or they just love those games at all. I know some people have talked about, say, like Mario Party games. Those are obviously games that people, there's love. I don't know if love's the right word.
They
for
suck,
when people
man.
talk about Mario
Party.
Sports games. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like the GDQ staff overall, like, you have to at some point take an objective step back and say, okay,
I think there's an opportunity with sports games even where you could really break the game and showcase. Take NFL Blitz, something like that. I don't know. I noticed there aren't a lot of fighting games. Why don't we see maybe Mortal Kombat or Street Fighters? It'd be fun to see someone abuse Blanca. That sounded weird.
But no, we as speedrunners, we actually didn't even take it weird. We know.
Right, I knew
what the word
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, to abuse it.
It's weird. So like sometimes it's because it turns out that game's just not a great speedrun, right? Like it like either the campaign mode for the game is already not very interesting, or people haven't found ways to make it interesting, because there are a lot of games that are not very interesting that people find ways to make interesting in a speedrun. But there are also like very rare circumstances where you got to think about like, what is our overall mission with games done quick, and something like Doctors Without Borders, like one of their big missions is helping people all over the world and preventing violence. So like fighting games are pretty counter to that sometimes, something like a Mortal Kombat. So it's one of those things where it's just like you kind of got to find the right time to do something like that, right? The place where it makes more sense.
Is that why Vice City was in awesome games done quick and not summer games?
Potential. I am not on the committee.
I
am not.
Neither one of us
I'm not
choose them. But I mean, it very well could have been something. It is a factor
I don't
to
know.
consider.
Yeah.
I got to make that very clear. I don't help in deciding games at all. You can bribe me. I will love it, but I won't be able to help you in a game.
I do have. If you ever had any say, get 4-player Overcooked. That's the only.
Oh, there
I
you
would
go.
love
There you
to
go.
see.
Yes, yeah, we'll
That'd be
get
fun.
it in.
I think that
It's
would
not
be
violent
bonkers.
in the least.
4-player co-op games. I don't think I've seen that before here.
Yeah, there's been a couple over the years.
Right.
It's obviously hard because
Borderlands 2 is one of them for
it's
sure.
one
Like
of them,
that's
yeah. We
that
had
shows up a few
3-player
times
co-op
as
this one.
2, 3, 4-player co-op.
But that's obviously an omega popular game
Right.
out there. It's a lot easier to find players for it. Whereas I know Sinister One, who's actually doing a co-op run of Chippendale's Rescue Ranger for the NES.
Yes,
he happened to find someone who lived in his general area, and the two of them were able to meet up once a week and get to play the game a little bit here and there.
That's what I was going to bring up because, like you said at the beginning, speedrunning. Not a lot of people have found it yet, right? Or like it's still fairly niche, even though we're raising over $2 million at some of these events. Like the hobby overall, in terms of the grand scope of gaming, is pretty niche. Mm-hmm. So when you've got something like a co-op game that only has local co-op, sometimes it's a logistical problem. A lot of the friends you make through speedrunning end up being distributed all over the country, all over the world. And if there's no way to play that game online with them, then how are you going to practice your speed game, right? And then it comes down to submissions. If somebody makes a really good submission of Overcooked 4-player, I guarantee you they'll consider it. And
so you're saying it's up to me now?
It is.
I was going to say
indeed.
you need to find 3 friends.
I see 3 people in the room right now.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
We'll learn it by the end of the week and prepare our video for AGDQ.
So AGDQ and SGDQ, they're obviously the big names, the Super Bowls, the Christmases in speedrunning. There are many other events that. So I recently, I've been watching Games Done Quick for a while, but when I knew I was coming here 2 months ago, I decided I need to know everything I can about this community. And the more I found out, I realized that there's so much more that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorites I have found is RPG Limit Break, which
Yeah.
we're both heavily involved
Great
with.
event.
Almost wore that shirt today, but I think that was yesterday.
Oh, would have planned it.
What are some other events that are going on that are exciting and that are coming up that you guys looking forward to?
Gosh, I mean, there's obviously all 3 of those events you just mentioned are all in the States. One overseas is ESA, the European Speedsters Assembly. That's been going on for a while. I think its best strength is just that it provides an event for Europeans to get to that's not always going across seas. I know there's I think it's ASA, Australian speedrunners. I know they
ASM,
have,
yeah,
ASM,
yeah, ASM.
The Australian Speedrunner Marathon.
Something like that, yeah.
I trying to think. Of course, there's GDQ Express now.
Yeah, GDQ Express. I mean, more that's still within
Another
Games
GDQ,
Done Quick.
yes.
That happens
kinda-
at TwitchCon.
You kind of hear about online marathons left and right.
Yeah.
It's kind of the big thing.
Another one that's been cropping up really recently and has been interesting because it's different is the speedrun sessions that Grand Pooh Bear has been putting on.
Yeah,
where-
rough life heading out to Vegas to go commentate
Yeah.
on Mario, right?
I'm so jealous. I couldn't go, dude. I was busy that weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really cool thing because I love seeing more and more marathons, more and more, especially like online marathons, but especially local marathons, because I think that the more they happen, the more people are going to experiment and try something new. And that's what I like about speedrun sessions. And there are some other events, like Twitch Rivals has done some speedrunning things. Speed Gaming does some awesome speedrunning events. And all of those, I think, try to do something different and unique. And I think that's really cool because that's how you help a scene grow, right? Is keep finding all these different ways to appeal to as many people as possible.
I think speedrun sessions, it's out in Vegas. How many people that were there that They didn't go there specifically to go watch a speedrun, but they're at the bar, they're at Vegas, and they see someone just kick in Mario's butt.
Right.
That's grabbing new people into the community.
We had prime location too, because if you were coming into the MGM Grand, there was this escalator you basically had to go down that like overlooked the bar where we were doing this event. So you had 15 seconds of just sitting on an escalator watching people play Mario games and Cuphead and other stuff like that. So it was like it was a real easy hook, you know, have them walk right over.
Instant intrigue seeing something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you also had the benefit there of they were doing crowd control, which anybody who doesn't know what that is. It's a extension of some sort you can have on Twitch where you can fuck with people's games as they're playing. You can actually like send them bits, which is money on Twitch, and it can change something in their game. Like all of a sudden, here's $10, but it kills you, or here's $5, but all of a sudden your left and your right is all reversed and everything. Right. And so you guys were doing it there while they were playing Mario 64, but it was like for every drink someone bought.
Yeah, we were doing it live. It was like go get a drink at the bar, and if you show us your receipt, then you can like make him permanently fly, or you can
you could give him Red Bull wings.
Yeah. You could just like totally mess with Simple Flips while he was doing the run. It was nuts.
Great way to interact with the community there.
Very fun, yeah.
I want to talk about Twitch rivals too. Mm-hmm. Now, that they were offered cash prizes, everyone that was running, correct? And it's been somewhat of a point of contention in the community about monetizing speedrunning and its development as an esport. But one thing that you mentioned, I think it was on the Sprint, was that many people were hitting their PBs, their personal bests, while they were racing because there was maybe a monetary prize. What are the possible pitfalls or benefits that you guys see as it develops into more of an esport?
So I think for me, it's kind of just inevitable growth, right? Like I think every sport and every esport runs into this problem. I guarantee the first time that people were playing like American football and stuff, like people were playing football.
This is only for charity.
Right, yeah, we're just here for fun.
I guarantee people were playing football. They were just having fun. And then when some jackass wanted to make a living off of it, some people were calling him a sellout or whatever. Like I think it's inevitable with the growth of the industry and everything. But I think that it does still warrant having proper thought based around it, like making sure that you are approaching it in the right way, making sure you're thinking about people cheating and stuff. Obviously, you hope it never comes up, but it certainly does, and making sure that you are giving a fair shake to like as many people as possible when making competition, rather than just, oh well, it's a competition, but we know what first, second, and third are going to be every single time.
Sure.
That's not helpful competition, right? Like that doesn't really help entice a lot of people.
Yeah. Games Done Quick still, even though it's grown so much, has such a pure spirit. This is my first GDQ, and I tell you, when we were watching Zallard on Punch-Out Week, the entire room was electric. Everyone gasps every time. There was even a close hit. He didn't even get hit. The room was on fire, and it was pure jubilation. And I understand being wary of tampering with something that is so pure, but take your time. I think there's room for both, because we do want Zallard to be rewarded for his efforts. That guy speed ran 3 Punch-Out games blindfolded.
Right.
Get him a Chrysler. I don't know. Get him something.
It's nuts, dude. And it's one of those things too where like you brought up the room was electric, right? And
oh man.
And I think one of the reasons I'm excited for a lot of different types of events is and people trying things is trying to help capture that energy and like push it online and stuff, because it's like when you go to a football game or you go to a basketball game or something and you're in person, the feeling in the stadium, the feeling in the arena is nothing like the feeling of watching the game online. Even if you're a diehard fan, you know, you've been watching them for 20 years and this is the time that they're going to the championship, there's something different about being in the room there. And that totally happens at GDQ too, and it's not something that can just be captured by crowd mics, right?
I haven't been that excited at a sporting event or anything.
nuts.
That was better than Avengers Endgame.
You should have heard us at Mario Maker a few years back. Like,
oh god, everyone was going nuts the entire time. And we were experiencing the levels for the first time as well. There's so much cool stuff going on in there. But it's like you said, it's whenever I get to a GDQ, I'm reminded once again how many people come up and like say hi, I want to take pictures with you and everything. That it's extremely wholesome. Actually, the audience is there. Like you said, everybody is on your side. They want to see you do well, which is the thing that can kind of calm the nerves as you're about to go up and perform all these tricks, these frame perfect tricks.
Coming out in a potato sack.
Right. I was like, all right, maybe they'll support me on this one. That was my choice.
I think part of that too is it's good to remember that like when people are online and just like spouting garbage in Twitch chat or whatever and being real kind of dicks, to be honest, like that is usually the vocal minority of people watching out there. Like the huge majority of people on Twitch lurk, I'm pretty sure, and B, there's some level of like mob mentality once you add anonymity into like the mix. Yeah. And so when you have everybody in person, like even if who knows, 3 years ago they might have been one of those people like posting on like following and posting and adding on to just like, oh, that sucks, this person said one minor thing wrong, right? Like that kind of thing. But once you really take out that thing out of the mix, everybody remembers, oh hey, like we're all humans, and people are gonna make mistakes every now and then and stuff. So
there are instances where you have someone like one of my personal heroes, Blue Glass. So,
my dude.
Some people that they're a little more out there, and they become heroes of the community. They become embraced and loved. Yes. I saw the fall guy who ran and fell when the camera saw him, and I was like, "It's you! Hey, man, that's awesome!" Yeah,
there's so many legends I didn't even know about the fall guy.
The camera zoomed in on him, and he looked panicked, and he ran. He did this little joke where he ran away, but he fell really bad.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's kind of, I think a lot of people find, it's like speedrunning is a hobby. I always like to bring it up this way, and I brought it up at that panel you're mentioning, or a different panel, I think, but that speedrunning is a hobby in which you take a single player experience and turn it into a multiplayer one, which is my favorite thing about it. Yeah. I love that about it, because think of how many awesome single player games there are out there that you'd love to play with your friends or talk about with friends and stuff, especially growing up as a kid and everything. And I think because of that a lot of people that find speedrunning it sometimes like, well, I love all these single player games, right? I've felt like I just wanted to play this game by myself sometimes and stuff like that. And so it's a community that really embraces everybody, because we're just like, hey,
I want more people playing these games.
I want people playing this game with me, man. And once you get past that first impression that you might get out of somebody, you realize, oh, this is a really cool person. They just kind of did an awkward thing one time or something.
We've all done awkward things
exactly.
many times.
Shit, have we?
But they give you hugs for it here, which is really great.
Right, exactly.
I loved that potato sack.
Well, speaking of potato sack, Spike, you've had many different names: Lord Tay, Urban Yeti, Lord Tater Tot, mostly known as Spike Vegeta. I'm sure you get this question a lot, but how'd you decide on that and not something like Smooth Goku or Lumpy Trunks?
I was about to say, you were rocking the name at like 8 years old. You came up with yours. Yeah, that goes about 10 years old on some website. I don't know. And I was like, oh, I'm 10, so I like cartoons. So I like Cowboy Bebop and Dragon Ball Z, and I smacked two names together, and I never thought about it again.
Did you see Dragon Ball Super?
So I actually haven't really. I've seen clips of it here and there. That was definitely, anime is hard, man. Or just like,
it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not even anime. It's people. I know you were trying to get me into like Brooklyn Nine-Nine a couple months back. We watched the first 3 episodes, and I was like, this show is awesome. I'm never going to find time to watch this. Right. I wake up, I have breakfast, I go stream for 8 hours, and then I'm pooped. I want to get away from everything. I find these days I end up watching Twitch streams a lot. I feel like I'm either doing research on a speedrun or just supporting my friends. Or doing research or practicing a run and whatnot, and I never get around to TV anymore. So Dragon Ball Super, it's like, it's just like 120 episodes or whatever you got.
Is that all?
That's it.
I had to block 20 minutes every morning while I had coffee to watch the Japanese dubs.
Yeah, right.
It was great. I woke up 20 minutes earlier. I had to make time for it.
Right.
So
how is it?
It is phenomenal.
It's good.
It's very good, but just quit speedrunning, right? That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
Quit
right.
streaming for a while. It's your life.
I tried to read. I don't know if you're into One Piece at all. I tried to read One Piece a while back. That shit's up to 90 volumes of manga, which are like decent little reads. I got like 45 into it, and I was like, "This is really cool," but I gotta get married someday. I gotta pay off a mortgage.
I got shit to do, man.
There's no way. All right, enjoy the series.
So let's say that you have a moment when you're not researching games, playing games, watching games, reading about games, studying games. If there is a moment, what hobbies do you like to pursue?
Whew.
Haven't thought about that in a long time.
I feel like I only go to the movies anymore, and I love film. I only go to the movies to watch Marvel films these days.
Yep.
Because I'm like, DC sucks. Like, we're down to like Marvel
Shazam was
movies.
okay. Shazam was okay.
No,
Wonder
Shazam was
Woman
cool.
was
Wonder
pretty
Woman
good.
was good. Yes, that was like, what happened? Who
They made a mistake and got it right.
they made? And like something bad happened up with management. I don't know, but Wonder Woman was great. Shazam was cool.
The new Joker movie looks good with
Joaquin Phoenix.
That
I love
looks demented. It has like a real Taxi Driver, King of Comedy.
Yeah,
Scorsese
I was
feel.
gonna say I'll give that a chance because I love Batman. I will always, no matter what, I will always give a new Batman a try. But I don't know until Justice League.
Yeah, what a
That was
grown
the.
man.
That was the. You still haven't watched it, have you?
No, I haven't caught up on those.
No amount of scotch made that movie good.
For me, it's like I'm really weird in that I like to think of myself as jack of all trades, master of very little. But I love learning, so I'll either learn how to do some random new thing or like watch videos of people that are really good at like. It'll totally change like week to week. Like 2 weeks in a row, I'll watch like woodworking videos like crazy. People just making like really intricate bowls and shit. And I was like, man, this is like how people feel when they watch cooking shows. Like this is awesome,
Dude, I love
I never
cooking
understood
shows.
it.
I love cooking.
Food Network is the best channel on television.
Terrible at cooking.
And then like 2 weeks later, I'll be watching just random videos about somebody building a shitload of Legos and doing making something out of that. So I like watching a lot of YouTube videos, but I also like watching specifically creators that I really enjoy because I feel like we're still trying to grow ourselves as creators and everything. So I love seeing what other people do and think about like what they do really well and where there's maybe some spots to improve on stuff and like try to continue finding our niche in creating stuff and making videos and all that kind of thing.
A lot of it comes from like finding out how to be. It goes back to the commentator thing of how are you that voice that bridges the gap between someone who hasn't thought about something much and someone who has thought about something way too much.
Right.
Like when we do a speed run, it's like, okay, you got the audience who's like, I've played a Crash Bandicoot game, sure. You got JHobz who has like grinded it to a T. He knows every little thing about every part of the level. And you got me in the middle of like, okay, how do I break that down and then translate it to someone that you can understand off this casual experience how hard this is and try to like create that visualization for them. And watching content creators that we like to get into that's ultimately I think what they are at the end of the day. They do like a retrospective on a game they love or whatever.
A lot of the time.
You guys do too good of a job at commentating because sometimes when there's a game being played and I feel like I'm not getting that experience. Well, why don't those guys get up? Can't they master another game?
They gotta ask us, man. It's just that's the cool thing though is like once you kind of it's why I love doing stuff with Spike all the time is once you build a rapport with some people and it's like I do commentary with Spike a lot. I've done commentary with quite a few people in the Ori and the Blind Forest community that I
amazing game by the way.
Very good game. Please play it. Ori 2 is coming out soon. It'll be great. But the great thing is once you kind of find that natural rhythm and rapport with somebody, then you just got to learn the game. And then it's a lot like you don't have to worry about all the okay, so how are we going to make sure that when I stop talking, I know you're going to start talking. Like who are you going to take world 1 and I'll take world 2 or like level 1 and then level 2. We'll bounce back and forth. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It's just like so it's just like we just watched this level. What about it stood out to you? All right, what was confusing? Let's go figure out like how they did that skip or something. So it's gotten a lot nicer. I would almost say complacent, but I don't think we've gotten complacent or anything.
No, absolutely
But
not.
it's just like it's really
You're comfortable.
It's comfortable. Yeah. It's really nice to just go and be like, hey Spike, we got to do commentary on this thing. Let's go.
I'm doing
let's go
Spyro
learn
in
this
3
thing.
days. I'm comfortable staying up all night and I can do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is probably learning the vernacular and just understanding how people are exploiting games or getting through things, developing routes.
Sure.
Once you
Yeah,
kind of understand that process, you're probably able to approach games and understand it much quicker.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I can go up downstairs right now. You got a couple hundred people playing different games, practicing their own speed games, and I can look at and see them do a trick and say, "Oh, so this like helps you store something in the background of the game," and yeah, exactly. Just after you've seen a couple hundred speed games, you kind of know most of the 100. Then some of them you're still like, I don't know how the hell that works.
You hear the word air swimming, you know a game's broken to all hell, man. Like that's kind of the classic example, but it really there's a really great feeling you get if you are doing a trick and somebody walks up and they see something super minor that you did to save time that nobody else would ever see, but they saw it because they've just done speedruns so much. And I think that's like the level that we're at sometimes with a lot of games, not every game, but sometimes you can just see and be like, oh, I just noticed that they rotated their camera 2 fucking degrees there to make this trick work
something in quicker or something.
Exactly. It's that kind of thing that really once you play a wide variety of games, rather than you could play the same game for 6 years and not always like see that stuff, but if you play a wide variety of games, you start to see the similarities between them and how people find certain glitches and certain tricks and stuff like that.
That could be a cool showcase or a class where if there's one game where you're doing 10 quick tricks in the course of 5 seconds, where you could just slow it down and break it down for people so they really understand it. It's nice.
We're gonna have to stop this podcast because like that's too good of an idea. Like we gotta steal that.
We're jumping on it.
We gotta write it down.
Take it, of course. So I saw the Punch-Out speed run. That is instantly become my favorite thing so far. What runs are we really looking forward to for the rest of the GDQ? I know one, but we're not going to talk about Kingdom Hearts for a second.
Okay.
Anything besides Kingdom Hearts
3.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big fan. You know, you guys had talked about it, the speedrun sessions that you went to. I actually got to be a part of an event called the Mario Masters Coliseum that they're now holding once every year. And it was built out of a lot of people that started coming up out of the woodworks because they were playing Mario Maker and just Kaizo Mario games. Really, really hard Mario ROM hacks. They are some of the most fun-loving, passionate, skilled gamers I've ever had the pleasure of being around. And they get together once a year and they just put on, all right, what Mario games can we do? Sometimes we'll do hacks, sometimes we'll play like the 3D Marios like Mario 64, Sunshine, Odyssey. But we're not just doing speedruns, we're doing goofy shit like if you donate $10, we'll put on oven mitts for a minute and we'll have to play like that. Or you'll have to be blindfolded all of a sudden. And we're not trained like Zallard. We're having people tell us like, all right, 45 degrees to the left, get in there. They're doing a bunch of Mario games at this marathon. It's actually just listed right now as like blind Super Mario World Race, kind of to harken to Mario Maker a little bit. People like Graham Pooh Bear is going to be involved.
Mitch Flower Power
involved. Noble Tofu.
Pingia Panga's in there somewhere. I don't remember if it's if it's that run.
I believe he is one of those.
Okay,
Barbarous, who makes a lot of the big time hard Mario ROM hacks. That is always a joy to watch.
That community, the games aren't hard enough for them. They're going to try and make them harder.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a couple things to appreciate. Not just like how skilled they are at the games and like how quickly they can pick up on something they've never seen before.
Yeah.
It's not a super rehearsed thing. There's a lot of improv involved with saying like, oh, but I've seen these patterns stuff like we were just talking about with commentary where I know what the dev of this level wants me to do. But also the fact that there's a dev behind all that. There was a director who created this entire level to be showcased at a GDQ.
Possibly for that one person running the game even.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I know
we're going to mess with that guy.
This is a trick that Graham Pooh Bear's not going to see coming and take him down, and that it's going to get a big laugh from the audience and everything. I definitely recommend watching the entirety of Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday was looking like a pretty big one.
Yeah, I always like to direct people towards games that they have probably never heard of or they know nothing about. Remnants of Nazith is a little indie game run by a friend of mine named Epicat, who like this game is one of those games that is just fast from the moment you see it. It's a game with a grappling hook, which is like that's
that
like,
game. Yeah, now it's
you hear grappling hook or dash in speedrunning, and you're like, oh yes, okay, I'm in. I'm already in. But it's a game with a grappling hook, and it's like this game where an individual level of the game is maybe 3 seconds, and it's not because that's how every single level is. It's because that's what they've turned it into. And you just go so fast in that game. That's really cool. Command and Conquer I'm looking forward to. I tend to look forward a lot of the times to runs based on runners rather than the game more often than not, because like you said, we're very interested in commentary, and I love hearing people that I respect on the commentary catch and stuff and all that kind of thing. So Command and Conquer is going to be Railcoon and Covert Muffin doing that one, and I've heard the cutscenes for that game are just fucking hilarious too. So like that's just a great extra incentive.
Awesome. On a very serious note, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah. Oh God.
But can you guys play a game without trying to break it down speedrunning wise? The first time you played Kingdom Hearts 3, did you soak it in? Did you take your time, or were you just we could cut 3 seconds off of this one?
It's weird because people ask that all the time, right? Like people are always like worried about that. Like
we're concerned,
right? Yeah, almost to a degree, right? They're like, oh, you're just gonna analyze it from the get-go and you won't like anything because it's not how it would be in a speedrun for you or something. But I like to think of it as speedrunning has enhanced my casual experience for games, because now I'll play the game just like I did when I was a kid, or like I did for years before finding speedrunning, and I'll have a lot of fun with it, and go and explore, and I'll try to 100% if I really like the game and that kind of thing. But then on top of that, if I run into like some mechanics in the game that I think are really interesting, I might try to find a new way to use them in conjunction with each other, or a new way to use them in specific situations, because I'm like, wait a minute, this jump goes a little higher if I do it right here. So maybe I can get over this wall with it. Oh my God, I got it. Like, that kind of thing. I don't even know what that's going to do in terms of a speed run or a casual experience yet. It's just cool to know that it exists and to find things. So I love it.
Possibly more ingredients for Donald.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Always finding more ingredients. I can't believe there isn't more. Just like pick up a million items and then create more dishes.
We're going down a snow mountain right now, Donald. Possibly some ingredients over here.
Dude, that's what they should have allowed. You have a little sledding sequence in that game. You're just running over snag and shit.
I saw some stickers that just a Donald Duck saying something about the ingredients. People would slap it on weird spots.
That's great.
There's never been a game with a longer wait, I don't think. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is trying to push it, but did Kingdom Hearts 3 live up to the wait?
I'll let you go first.
It's tough, man. You can never reach that. I don't think you can ever make everyone happy with that sort of thing. And it's an RPG. There's a million different reasons why people love the Kingdom Hearts series. Some people are like, I love it for the story or the characters and the combat's whatever. Some people are like, I just want to have a fun combat engine, and the story can be whatever for me. Like, I understand, like, it's anime ridiculousness over here on the side. It's some people want a great soundtrack and whatnot. I think it was an almost impossible thing for them to try to execute. I genuinely had a ton of fun with the game. It wasn't super for me as a speed game, I will say, early on. It's definitely like it's a more of a magic build that you work through with it. But I had a good time with my casual playthrough. It was a long time coming. There's a lot of other games I had to get to afterwards.
I think for me, it's one of the things that I always loved about the Kingdom Hearts series was that the games are they like evolve over the course of the game, right? Like, and that's what a lot of RPGs do. But generally, the beginning is kind of where you're like, all right, maybe I'm a little more limited and I'm kind of slogging through the beginning maybe a tiny bit. But as I get going, it's like, oh, this is getting better and better, and it comes to like this big climax. And I, unfortunately for me, felt like Kingdom Hearts 3 did the inverse of that.
Oh, really?
Where I had a ton of fun in the first third of that game. Like, I was loving it.
Olympus Coliseum is genuinely pretty cool.
Yeah. It was unfortunately like just getting a little less fun for me further on. There were spots where I was like, this thing, I thought it was going to go this way, and I thought that would have been super cool, and they just made a different decision. But that was just my own personal, feeling on it.
I think at Olympus Coliseum, they might have just thrown something that peaked really hard early. Because I remember Rapunzel's world, there was a long slog where not a lot happened, and then even in the Frozen world, it took forever, and it was just a one-to-one telling of Frozen, including the musical segments, which is fine, but not what I wanted.
Right.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. There was a lot of just like spots where they could have made two decisions and they went one way, and I think for me, unfortunately, they just went the way that I would have liked less several times in a row.
There were things they did in the game that were interesting. I liked that they were like, we're on the PS4 now. We can make massive worlds.
And it's gorgeous. It's a fucking gorgeous
Beautiful game.
Yeah, gorgeous game. Still a great soundtrack. There's still a lot of things that feel satisfying in it, but there's just moments where you feel a little empty. At the end of the day, I still want the combat engine of the game to feel somewhat balanced. And I felt like you went from having nothing at the beginning of the game to having way too much by about the middle point. And I felt like, why don't I just shoot fire at everything, thunder everything, and then it just all dies?
The carnival rides were really, overwhelming in a bad way. Where there's the carnival rides, they pop up all the time in the middle of combat, and they just stop. They just stop the flow. They stop the pace.
Right.
And also there's like 5 of them total, and it seems like they're gonna give them to you progressively over the course of the game. They give them to you all within the first like 2 hours or
Here's
something.
the teacups. Here's the ship.
Yeah.
And they really waited to cram all of the melodrama, I feel like, of the story
at
into the very end.
Yeah, at the very end, which definitely by the time, because I was playing it on stream and everything, obviously for the first time, and as I was getting to the end, it was like getting late at night, but I was like, I feel like I'm getting near the end of the game.
Mistake!
I feel like I'm getting near the end of the game, so I'm going to keep trying to push, and then it was just cutscene after cutscene, and
after cutscene after cutscene
after cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. Yeah, definitely.
5 minutes of playing, cutscene after cutscene.
Oh,
and the problem was it was such a predictable way it went with everything that, like, at the end of the day, they just went with fan service. I don't mind fan service. We've been waiting around a long time. It's just... Man, that was 15 years of build-up to just be like, and everyone had a happy
nothing
ending
too shocking happened other than the absence of the Final Fantasy universe.
Yeah,
which was
not great either. I want to make it very clear, like, if you love the game, that's awesome. I'm
I'm
genuinely
crapping on it. Like
we all love the game still.
Yeah, it was still it's still good. Like I very genuinely like. am excited if you loved the game. That's super cool. It just didn't quite push all the same buttons for me.
And another thing to just know, there are 3 amazing speedrunners here from our community.
Oh yeah, and the speedrun's great.
Crispy Me and Ninten. And the amount of work they've put into this game is insane. There's still so much combat optimization. The game is still the most interesting Kingdom Hearts to just move Sora in.
Yeah.
There's so many things you do with the flow motion, how you climb up the Arendelle Mountain 4 times.
I haven't seen a speedrun. I'm very excited to see that.
It's a fun speedrun. Like you said, it's not really for you. It's not really that much for me either, but it is a very awesome speedrun. Like, there's a lot to it, and I think that's cool.
A lot of flashiness.
Well, if you two aren't busy enough, you also have created another avenue of content called Possibly Bad.
Yes.
What are some of your goals with this new show?
Make more shows.
Yeah.
To like make it. There's so many different things that both of us, have ideas for. Both of us have just like different content creators we like to watch, and like.
What are some of the content creators you like to watch?
I love King K. I love Johnny Versus. I like King K does really good retrospectives on video games, and you could tell like he's thought about it a lot. I mean this in the nicest way possible. He gets really nerdy with games, where like it's not just looking back and saying like, oh, I love Zelda: Link to the Past. It's great. Like I have all this nostalgia and the music's nice and I get warm feelings. No, it's looking back saying like, how well does the game hold up? What does it actually do? This item is awkward to use in these spots, and so like because as speedrunners we do that too. We break it down. We check all the like little crumbles of the toast that comes off of the bottom of the oven. We look at the whole thing. We consume it. So to watch him do that with games, even from a casual standpoint, I start to see almost like a melding of our worlds where you get it. You're really looking at that stuff that people gloss over when. Those of us who complain about like Kingdom Hearts 3, some aspects about it, we're just seeing those minute little details that irritate us too much.
I think that there is a hole to be filled with, and I know that you guys are throwing lots of things at the wall as a speedrun community, but a weekly, monthly show that really covers what is happening in a way that's digestible to the masses who aren't as knowledgeable. I think that that's a hole that is going to be filled eventually, and you two are poised to be in a position to fill it, and hopefully that's what comes from Possibly Bad and from feeling it out, because I think it's waiting. I think it's there somewhere.
Yeah, we've totally talked about that for sure. It's part of one of the big reasons we started the channel was more even just a formalization of like a partnership between the two of us in terms of making content, including like. Helping each other with our streams and everything, from technical aspects to to outreach aspects and stuff like that, and also wanting to put out content. So like right now we have our On the Couch series, which is let's play, but with a speedrunning twist on it a lot of the time.
For sure.
And that's definitely, like you said, that's our launching point. That's our, like, we knew we could make this, and we wanted to see if we could do it regularly, and it's literally just us two doing it right now. Like, we don't.
Which I think is a good starting point. Just something like, let's just really push that good rapport we have between ourselves, just to the next level.
Yeah, but we have like so many other ideas. We have some stuff that's actually in the works right now. That is probably going to still take several months to actually show up because of editing and all that stuff. But we have more stuff. All I'll tease is, like, I'm a big fan of like video essays and stuff like that on YouTube. That's some of my favorite content. Like Movies with Mikey, Film Joy is an awesome channel. Anybody who does like analysis of games, like you were saying, in kind of long form. So we want to do some stuff like that while again still keeping that speedrunning angle, but just talking about games overall. And we have talked about like a podcast or something similar, because like I'm on the Sprint right now, like you said, which is a podcast I do on the Games Done Quick channel with some people. But we tend to look at a game every episode and focus on that. And there's definitely still a little bit of a hole to fill with a more casual podcast that's really just like, all right, what happened since last time? Like let's kind of get the roundup right. That
without
kind of thing.
getting like too much into exactly what we're doing, because we're still kind of figuring that out, to be 100% honest. I like to make audiences smarter. I like to just make people feel like I get speedrunning a lot more now. I feel like I want to do that every time I go out on stage and I explain a Crash Bandicoot game, a Donkey Kong game, a Mario game, or anything. And I would like to do that with our channel going forward. I'd like for people to watch some of our content and say, I appreciate so much more about this speed game now because I just watched this video. Like, oh, now I'm gonna watch it. I know why he just reset right there, because he just lost 2 minutes because of this one frame perfect trick. And I didn't even know it was a frame perfect trick. I thought he just walked up and walked through a wall. No, it's a lot harder than you think to cheat.
Right.
So we got a lot that we want to do, and it's a lot about just kind of making sure that we're able to support ourselves doing it right now. Right. Like making sure, we might need to get somebody to actually edit these videos so that we can make them all the time and stuff.
I went to film school. My favorite thing to do in the world is editing. If you guys do want to dump content my way, I would be happy to do it.
Oh, God.
Cool.
We'll talk about something.
We'll exchange some more contact info later.
Cut the video here, jump 5 minutes, and there's the contract.
There's one other little thing I wanted to do, but before we get there, where can our listeners find you? Where's the best place to see what you're up to?
So if you want to catch stuff with both of us, with Possibly Bad Entertainment and all that, you can go to at possibly bad. Is it possibly underscore? I'm really bad at promoting this. I'm pretty sure it's at possibly underscore bad on Twitter for our thing. I'm forgetting. Because we consider doing at bad possibly, and then we like
Tater Tot's got his phone out.
But I think it's at possibly underscore bad on Twitter. If you go to YouTube and just search Possibly Bad or Possibly Bad Entertainment, that'll get us. If you want to catch either of us individually, and we do stuff like co-op streams and stuff sometimes.
Speedrunning Underground.
Yeah, I'm twitch.tv/JHobz296, which is
with
awful.
A Z on the Hobbs.
Yeah, JHobz296. It's the most obnoxious thing.
I thankfully am somehow the only nerd out there that ever smacked Spike and Vegeta together. So
you got there early.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like Twitter, I wasn't on there until like 2013. I'm surprised Ashton Kutcher or someone hadn't taken it by then.
He's a big Vegeta fan.
I'm sorry. Yes, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z. We were out at the Mall of America today, and we walked into like Forever 21, like the most like, and like we're walking through the store. I was getting clothes for my girlfriend, and like everything's like top of the line, like these cute clothes, and then there's one section that's still just like Dragon Ball Z shirts.
Love
it.
Just
like, how does like this still get a corner of Forever 21? I don't know, but on Twitch, Spike Vegeta. On Twitter, you can find me at Spike Vegeta, and on YouTube, you can find me at Spike Vegeta. I'll go get an Instagram or something. I don't know, but you can find us at Spike Vegeta. Also, you can search practically most all of the Kingdom Hearts GDQ runs.
Yeah.
And both of us are probably on the couch talking.
Everything since like 2015 almost.
You had an epic Kingdom Hearts run, I want to say, back in like 2012, 2013.
2011 was when I
2011.
raced Puex. I lost by 11 seconds.
And that's a long game.
That was like a 6-hour race at the time. There was stuff we didn't even know how to do because it was back then. Again, like I said at the beginning of the show, and now it's like, okay, you have to be like super well practiced, like top 3-4 in the world. Back then it was like, God, if you can like play this video game, we'll let you do it on stream. We'll let you do it for GDQ. So I raced my good friend Puexel in it, and it was a 6-hour game. I showed up and he was like, hey, I think we should make it all worlds because it'll make it more even between the two of us, because I was a little bit ahead of him, but he knew all the other worlds. And I was like, I have played all these worlds one time. Back when I played the game casually, I'm sitting there like learning strats the day before, and yeah, somehow it works out to where he wins in a 6-hour race by 11 seconds.
Amazing.
Which is insane, but like you see that a lot more than you would think in speedrunning, where like these multiple hour-long games, people have grinded it so much, they understand so much. It's hard to really get that far ahead of each other because you do know it all.
And everyone's going to make one little mistake and give you opportunities to catch up.
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that we actually do to continue that promotion thing, I guess, is if you go to twitch.tv/Spike Vegeta, we try to do it every week, but we do a lot of things. So sometimes it's not every week, but we got 30 something episodes. Somewhere. Yeah, we do a thing called Speedrunning Underground, where we try to pit two people against each other, and we don't give a shit if they're the number 1 and number 2, or if they're number 400 and 401. Like, as long as we think that they're going to be a close race, and then on top of that, sometimes we'll add extra twists and incentives to the race. Where like we had a Super Mario 64 race where the runners didn't know how many stars they were going to have to get yet, because we had chat help decide how many stars they were going to get.
At first they thought they just had to get 70.
And by the end of it, they were getting they got
256 stars.
Yeah.
They did a 120 star, a 120 star, and then a 16 star then, because they were like,
we gotta go to bed.
Chat would have got them further. I have work.
Yeah, they were like, we gotta go to bed. So we like trying to mix things up, and in that event, and to not only just make it more interesting and more unique, but also to keep the races really close, because there's nothing more exciting for us than commentating a super close race. Like, at least for me. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
And you guys are the best at it.
Thank you.
Oh no, thank you.
We are. No, it's fine.
You can find us at Hot Dogcast. That's our Instagram and our Twitter, I think. Hair of the Dogcast. Hot Dogcast.
Okay, Hot Dog.
We also have a hot dog podcast.
All right.
Where the hell are my hot dogs, man?
I was about to say, coming to the Food Network.
I'm personally Loaf of White Brad on Twitter and Instagram. I have over 10 Twitter followers. So lots of
well on your way.
Okay, I just want to say this to everyone watching. More people should be watching this podcast. At first you reached out to us, and we saw like, you guys are like relatively early on, but like watching through, I was like, these guys know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
There's such high production value, good conversations. You know how to make it about the guests, but like still your personality's in it.
Because that's the thing too. Sometimes we get like reached out to about like people. People say like, "Hey, I want to do this podcast," and it's like, well, I don't think they figured out what they want to do with the podcast yet.
Everyone's got a podcast these days too,
right? Yeah. And so it's just like we don't care what the size of a podcast is. We just want to know if the person is if it's going to be a good podcast.
If they're using these mics,
if it's going to be interesting.
I should just carry these mics around.
You just carry it around.
I went up to Omni Gamer earlier, and he's like, "Oh, cool," and then I gave him my card, and it was an assistant taproom manager card for a brewery. He looked very confused. I'm like, "Okay, I don't have the card yet. I'll bring the microphone next time."
If you flip it around in pencil, there's something written on the back.
Like just take a picture of the SM7B or whatever, and just be like, "Listen, this is my resume."
To show the reverse pictures that here, like they can know.
Yeah, there you go.
How dedicated we are.
You all don't get
I'm
to
sleeping
quite
on the
see.
floor, and I don't know where Brian's sleeping at. So Loaf of White Bread, Instagram is what I mostly do. But I just wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds fun.
First thing that comes to your mind, favorite Keanu Reeves film?
I'm gonna be lame, but The Matrix, because I haven't seen the lame in terms of the easy answer, right? But I haven't watched the John Wick movies yet, and I really, really want to, so I'm going to.
Speed. I watched that way too much as a kid.
Woo. Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Absolutely.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Cats over here. They're wrong.
Okay.
Favorite,
we're done.
Favorite style of beer?
IPA. Yeah, I love them.
I like wheat.
IPA. Right?
Yeah, I like any sort of wheat beer. I'm lame. I am very lame.
Absolutely not. You're pretty cool.
Thank you.
Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis?
Ooh, I didn't have either growing up, so I'm gonna go with Genesis because Sonic was like one of
PlayStation 2. No.
yeah. Sonic was like Sonic 3 was one of my first games. So
No, sorry. I was one of those pro kids that had 2. We just had to sacrifice. I only have like 4 games. Super Nintendo though. I still think that library holds up.
Favorite obscure RPG?
oh crap.
Chain of Memories.
Oh really?
No
Hearts
shit.
Chain of Memories.
I actually love Chain of Memories a lot. Because everyone's like, oh, that's the card game
It's not
version
bad.
of Kingdom
The
Hearts.
card game's good.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I
a
like
game.
it.
Everything outside of the card aspect that bothers me.
Yeah, Chain of Memories is a game that's like it's got a really interesting combat mechanic that nobody ever knows how to use because the game is really bad at teaching it. I haven't played enough. I'm gonna call it obscure. I'm gonna cheat a little. I'm gonna call it obscure because I don't think many people think of it as an RPG. But Marvel Spider-Man, the 2018 Spider-Man game.
This
I need
dude's
to
still
play it.
trying to get into RPG limit
To me,
break.
it's an RPG.
You level up.
To me, it's an RPG because it feels more like an RPG than any other like type of game for me.
Could
It's great.
Castlevania be in this RPG on the break? Symphony of the Night in particular.
You level up in that game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I was about to say that's all you need, right?
Otherwise,
that's what makes an RPG.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Oh,
awesome,
yeah.
awesome
Actually,
game.
yeah, that's an answer.
Awesome-
Yeah, you
awesome
can
I
do
borrowed
that.
my brother's copy of that game and it had
yeah.
116 hours. I was like, what have you been
It's
doing?
a game that fucking warrants it, man. Like that, I love that game, and I love the speedrun to death, even though it's a terrible speedrun. Like objectively, it's garbage, but like I love it to death. It's great.
They need to make a Final Fantasy Tactics 2, a straightforward like sequel to that game.
They
They made
made-
Advance and Advance 2, but they need to make
Yeah.
a console Switch version, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
If they made a collection for it, God, that
That'd be
shit would
great.
sell like hotcakes. There's still people who are like, so what's your favorite Final Fantasy 7? I still hear so many people say a tactics game
Yeah.
is their favorite Final Fantasy game.
I have it on the iPad. Killer app
Oh,
for
I'm
an
sure.
iPad. It is perfectly the way the touchscreen works with it. It plays better than on the PlayStation almost.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
all
tried
that
playing on the
grid
phone
movement.
a little bit. Yeah,
The phone's tricky, at least with the iPad. And I use my
you got
my
more
i-
space.
The pen
Bam, go
thing.
there.
right.
We're terrible at rapid fire questions.
we are. We got too much to explain about them.
Kill or Save the Animals. Did I ask that one? Kill or Save the Animals.
Ooh,
Doesn't matter.
Kill the animals.
yeah, kill them. We got to
Kill
keep
'em all.
speed runs.
Gotta save the frames.
And can I party with you later?
Hell yeah, dude.
Of course you can, my
What,
dude.
we're, yeah, we're
Alright.
doing that right now, right? Like
So you
right
get
after
to party
this.
as well?
Yeah. Oh, Brian's coming.
Yeah,
I can't express how thankful and happy I am you guys came on. You guys
Wow.
are two titans of the industry, and I've been watching you for a long time. So thank you, and we will go drink a lot of beers and hang out.
Awesome.
A lot of GDQ to do. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Heck yeah, thank you for having us. This was fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Bye, everyone. We'll be back for another interview soon.